तो सुख एंड दुख, सुखी एंड दुखी। जो शास्त्र कहते हैं कि सुख और दुख, अगर आप दुखी हो सुखी हो इससे फर्क नहीं पड़ता। सो दुख में दुखी नहीं होना, सुख में सुखी नहीं होना, नंबर वन। सो ये बीमारियां तो आएंगी तो जाएंगी, यू हैव टू लिव विद इट, यू हैव टू फाइट विद इट, यू हैव टू लिव विद इट, नंबर वन। नंबर टू, हमारा जो गरुड़ पुराण है वो कहता है कि द पर्पस ऑफ लाइफ इज टू सफर, सो यू आर बॉर्न फॉर सफरिंग्स। सफरिंग्स तो होंगी, एंड अगर आपको कोविड हो जाता है, एंजॉय कि मेरे को तो इसी के लिए पैदा हुआ था मैं, मेरा कोविड है तो जाएगा, दैट इज नंबर टू। नंबर थ्री, दिस इज दैट यू बी indifferent टू a disease, don't have a fear, don't have a dispassion, don't have depression, do your karma and forget its duty. And that example comes from when Ram came back and he was in dispassion कि मैंने जो थ्योरी में पढ़ा है प्रैक्टिकल में तो डिफरेंट है। And when Arjun was in acute dispassion, he says मेरे पैर लड़खड़ा रहे हैं, मेरे हाथ पैर कांप रहे हैं, मुझे समझ में नहीं आया कि मैं क्या करूं। So in both the situations, the message is do your actions and get detached to his results. Now, if we see in terms of COVID, currently, as on today, there are only 2% people who are serious. Lakh people who are, only 50,000 people are serious, which is 2%. And out of them, 15% would die. That means only 0.3% would die, which is not the earth getting attached to it. 0.3% mortality. अगर आप लोग डरे हुए हो तो सर्जरी करना बंद कर दो, बिकॉज किसी भी सर्जरी की मोर्टेलिटी 0.3 से कम नहीं है।
ठीक बात है आपकी।
तो आप नहीं डरते सर्जरी करते हुए, वहां तो पेशेंट भी नहीं डरता कि मैं तो ये रिस्क ले लूंगा। अगर आपका रिस्क आज की डेट में, आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट यस्टरडे, बट इफ टुडेज रिस्क इज 0.3%, why are you worried about it? Why are you attached to his results? You are not attached to the virus, you are attached to its fear. मर तो नहीं जाऊंगा, ये तो नहीं हो जाएगा, वो तो नहीं हो जाएगा। So as on today, spirituality teaches us de-learning, not learning. तो आज से जो व्हाट्सएप में आया है सब भूल जाओ, then start learning again, and then you will know what spirituality teaches us. So spirituality basically teaches us अपरिग्रह। हम लोगों ने क्या कर रखा है अपने ड्राइंग रूम के अंदर में, हर चीज भरी हुई है, दैट इज परिग्रह। खाली करो। जितना आपका रूम स्पेस ज्यादा होगा, आपके क्लिनिक में जितना फर्नीचर कम होगा, उतना रिस्क कम है, दैट इज अपरिग्रह। दैट कम्स फ्रॉम हमारे जो अष्टांग योग के अंदर में आता है अपरिग्रह। सो देयरफॉर इट टीचेस अस एवरीथिंग व्हिच इज देयर इन आवर वेदास। हमारे वेदों में क्या लिखा हुआ था? हमारे वेदों में लिखा था कि आप अतिथियों का, बचपन से हमारे को बोला गया है फेस टू फेस मीटिंग मत करो, फेस टू फेस मीटिंग मत करो।
हाँ जी,
बड़ों का आदर करो।
बिल्कुल जी।
आदर कैसे करोगे? फेस टू फेस मीटिंग में तो आदर नहीं होगा ना साहब, वो तो बराबर के हो गए।
नहीं, आप नमन करके जो है नीचे झुक के उनका जो है आदर करो, और हाँ, और उनका
अपने से ऊंचा आसन दो।
हाँ, वही नीचे झुक के आप बैठो।
नहीं, हाँ नीचे झुक के बैठो। इससे क्या होगा? फेस टू फेस ट्रांसमिशन नहीं होगा, कोरोना नहीं होगा।
हाँ, बिल्कुल जी। हाँ,
फेस टू फेस है ना, तो हमारे शास्त्रों में लिखा है फेस टू फेस मीटिंग नहीं होनी चाहिए।
हाँ।
और जहाँ पे जो बराबर लोग हैं वो साइड टू साइड मीटिंग करो, फेस टू फेस क्यों कर रहे हो? फेस टू फेस तो लड़ाई होगी ना।
ठीक बात है।
फेस टू फेस तो लड़ाई होगी। अब इस वक्त में जो हम दोनों बैठे हैं ये साइड टू साइड है।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल।
साइड टू साइड मीटिंग करो। आपने डाइनिंग रूम में बैठा है, डाइनिंग हॉल में बैठा है, साइड टू साइड बैठो। आप फेस टू फेस क्यों बैठ रहे हो?
ठीक है, ठीक बात है, ठीक बात।
That's what. So therefore, whatever our yoga says, it is a science.
और कर्म किए जाओ, फल की इच्छा नहीं करो।
So that is called yogast kuru karmani. That whatever you do, get absorbed into it. That's yogast kuru karmani. And getting detached with it like a lotus. Getting detached with it like a lotus. Lotus comes in chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, and both of them comes into chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, which talks about yogast kuru karmani and get detached to the results. So इस वक्त में मैं आप अपने, अगर आपके हाथ में यहाँ शाई लग जाए, इंक लग गई, तो क्या हुआ फिर? ये इंक
लग जाए हाथ पे, तो इसका मतलब ये है कि आपको एक आइडेंटिफिकेशन जो है, स्पेशल आइडेंटिफिकेशन जो है वो
आपके हाथ में इंक लग गई, गिर गई,
हाँ जी।
तो क्या हुआ?
नहीं
तो क्या होगा? हाथ गंदा हो गया।
हाथ तो हाँ गंदा तो हो गया, तो उसको साफ करना है। हाँ
तो हाथ को आप साफ करोगे।
बिल्कुल जी।
सो बैड कर्मा नीड्स टू बी रिमूव्ड।
यस।
गंदा हो गया ना, गंदा कर्म हो गया।
गंदा काम हो
गंदे
गया,
कर्म को आपको साफ करना है।
साफ करना है।
साफ किससे करोगे?
पानी से, जल
पानी
से।
से तो जल से तो नहीं होगा।
हाँ जी।
जल से तो नहीं होगा।
साबुन से करोगे, जल से
साबुन से
करोगे।
करोगे।
हाँ।
साबुन से करोगे। अब आपने साबुन लगाया और उसको साफ कर दिया,
हाँ जी।
तो साबुन क्या हो गया? गुड कर्मा।
तो अच्छी कर्म हो गया, हाँ गुड कर्म
अच्छा
हो
कर्म
गया।
हो गया।
हाँ
अब क्या करोगे? अब मैंने साबुन से उसको साफ कर दिया, अब क्या करूंगा?
हाँ। हाँ जी।
अब क्या करूंगा?
क्या करना है, उसको पोंछना है, ठीक है, सुखाना है।
अब साबुन क्यों हटा? साबुन तो गुड कर्मा है, साबुन क्यों हटा रहे हो?
नहीं, साबुन को इसलिए है कि वो गुड कर्म जो है आपके, वो टाइम बीइंग जो है आप वो यूज कर रहे हो उनको जब जरूरत है।
नहीं, बट अगर साबुन से हाथ धोना इज ए गुड कर्मा,
हाँ
तो
हाँ।
गुड कर्मा से डिटैच क्यों हो रहे हो?
यार ये।
फिर आपने गुड कर्मा को पानी से धो लिया,
हाँ जी।
तो फिर आप उसको सुखा क्यों रहे? पानी को क्यों भी हटा रहे हो?
तो
So the answer is never get attached
टू
to both, to anything, whether
एनीथिंग।
it is good or light. That's your interpretation, but that's a karma. See, good or bad is your interpretation.
यस।
Okay, so if you attach to anything good or bad, it becomes a bandhan. It becomes a bandhan. तो इसलिए अगर मैंने जिंदगी में रमेश जी को कुछ दिया तो मुझे भूल जाना है, और अगर मैंने रमेश जी से कुछ लिया तो कभी नहीं भूलना।
वो मैं वही बोल रहा हूँ कि मैंने आपसे जो सीख लिया वो मैं नहीं भूलूंगा अब।
नहीं
मैं
नहीं, अभी
अब
मैंने
आज मुझे जो सीख मिली है वो नहीं मैं भूलूंगा। मैं अच्छी, ये तो अच्छी अच्छी सीख मिली है मुझे।
Absolutely. So जिंदगी के अंदर में good or bad, we have to detach with it. So that is called detachment from our karmas, because there is nothing like good or bad. It's अलग। आप सब लोग मेरे को बोलते हो ना कि ये गलत है, कई बारी मैं गलत तो हो ही नहीं सकता, कभी मैं तो अलग हो सकता हूँ।
डिफरेंट हो सकता हूँ, गलत नहीं हो सकता।
गलत कोई नहीं होता जिंदगी में।
हम्म।
जिंदगी में कोई गलत नहीं होता, वो उसका अपना परसेप्शन है, वो तो आपकी सोच है ना। आप उसको बोल रहे हो गलत या अलग, गलत है या सही है, वो आपका परसेप्शन है, वो डिफरेंट है, उसे रहने दो डिफरेंट।
ठीक ठीक बात।
दैट्स द पर्पस ऑफ लाइफ।
ठीक।
नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन पे आ जाओ।
नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन अब 4 बजे वो वेबिनार का है अब।
वेटिंग फॉर, आई एम वेटिंग फॉर डॉक्टर गांगुली आ गए।
डॉक्टर गांगुली, हाँ आ गए। डॉक्टर लो अभी डॉक्टर गांगुली इज देयर।
नमस्कार सर, डॉक्टर गांगुली।
नमस्कार नमस्कार।
I welcome you
नमस्कार।
all, and as soon as the national president or the secretary joins, but I am starting the meeting because sharp at 5 we will have a meeting which is 50 minutes, so that exact 50 minutes, and we have heard Dr. Ganguly last time, and we said that we will call him to ask question answers. And for the viewers who are watching, and this is live on YouTube, later on it will also be live on Facebook. And we are also writing minutes here. Dr. Sanchita is writing minutes. So whenever we want a vaccine, vaccine has to be the antigen, which is a virus or a bacteria. We need to use that antigen to make a vaccine. So UK said use virus as it is, and infect others like German measles, rubella parties used to happen. You used to expose people with the virus so that they get the infection and herd immunity develops. That's a natural vaccine where you, which UK said initially, why don't we expose all our children into it so that herd immunity develops. Second is you take a virus and inactivate the virus, paralyze the virus, make it inactivated. So inactivated virus can be used like a vaccine. Third is you kill the virus by a chemical or by heat or by radiation, and you use that killed virus as a vaccine. That is the third way of producing a vaccine. The fourth is you use a component of the vaccine, which can be the RNA, which can be a fragment of an RNA, which can be a membrane, which can be an envelope, or which can be the spike. So you can use the spike to use it as a vaccine. Next comes is you take another virus. You take another virus and say, for example, you take chimp adenovirus, and in that virus you add the spike protein so that it becomes like a vector. And it becomes another type of a vaccine. Or you can take a fragment of a virus and add an adjuvant into it. It becomes a conjugate vaccine. Or you can produce antibodies like a disease modifying antibodies, which Israel has produced as a monoclonal antibodies. Or you use plasma therapy or immunoglobulins as a vaccine. And the next one is you use a ready-made platform. Ready-made platform means you are using a platform which is already ready, where you add a protein of a virus, add a protein of a coronavirus, a fragment of a coronavirus in a ready-made vaccine, which can be a chimp adeno, which can be adenovirus, which can be rabies virus. In other viruses, you add a part of this virus to make it into a vaccine. So this is what we have discussed last time in terms of various types of vaccines. But before I start, I'll request Dr. Ashokan to welcome everybody here. Dr. Ashokan.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry I was a minute late because I was looking after patients. And it's a real pleasure that we have with us. Actually, this is a second continuation of the Lost Peaks program. Lost Peaks program itself was a treatise on vaccines. We were able to capture a large amount of information. Actually, Dr. KK said, let us come back with after assimilation of all the facts. I think we also discussed that this time it will be for questions. We will ask questions so that we will be extracting more information. And on behalf of the National President who couldn't make it today, he is busy elsewhere. I welcome all of you to the webinar and handing over to Dr. KK for further proceedings.
So I'll ask you one by one, and I'll request our faculty, Dr. Ganguly, to answer. My first thing is that like rubella, where people used to say, have a rubella party and get everybody infected. Then the concept came from UK, which was withdrawn within a day. And UK said that let the population, younger population getting infected, and you will develop a herd immunity and let everybody be infected with that. So what is your answer on that, Dr. Ganguly?
My answer is that normally for many infections which are endemic in a country, you already have a population, certain amount of immunity that is known as herd immunity. This particular virus is a baby virus. It is only 5 months old. So the population doesn't have any experienced immunity against this. It will take time. It will take at least 3 years or more to build up a herd immunity of any substance. If you get up to 70%, you will reduce the transmission or eliminate the transmission. If the herd immunity is 60% of the population have antibodies, then this will reduce the transmission by about 80%. This is a Harvard model. So, but the only way we could quickly build up herd immunity is through vaccines. And as you know, Dr. Agarwal, my article was published on vaccine in Hindustan Times. They have actually curtailed. It was a 2,300 words article. I will send you the 2,300 word article, which is the full article. But they cut it to 800 words. But it describes essentially what is known about this. The companies themselves also had a discussion on this, but herd immunity...
I'll ask specific questions. My first question was that it is not possible to have a natural herd immunity. And my second question is that when we know the herd immunity threshold, which is R minus 1 divided by R. So if the R value is 3, then herd immunity will be at 66%. But if the R value is smaller, the herd immunity will be higher. Why in countries like UK, US, New York, which is still not showing 66% of involvement, why the infection is declining? Does it mean their R value is smaller? Because in New York, so 25% of the population is getting infected, and if that level their peak is declining, it may mean that the R value there is 1.9.
Actually, this is a misnomer. But this is a formula to calculate, But the decline, any viral infection, it goes through a cycle. So the first cycle, if you normally see the last French influenza cycle, yeah, or H1N1 cycle, they had three peaks. The first was a smaller peak, and then it goes a plateau, and then it declines. The second one is a much larger peak, and this peak also reaches plateau and declines. And then there is a third peak. This whole cycle goes on for nearly 2 years. This is a natural course of the viral infection. However, to really calculate that what is the time in which you reach a reasonable time of herd immunity, the formula which you said is calculated. Here, those formulas really don't work because population, just you look at the horrendous infection which New York had, only the herd immunity is only 25%. 25% people have a signature of this. So this particular formula really doesn't stand for totally new infections. It takes a lot of time but the viral peak is for, and the plateau is for many other reasons. One reason is, of course, the seasonal reason. As the temperature builds up, although people had a skepticism about this, but for all respiratory infection, when the temperature builds up, it normally shows a downward trend, and then by the plateau and downward trend, and then again in the fall, when the temperature starts falling again, it reaches a height. So this is a normal cycle of the infection. In this herd immunity, actually it crawls gradually. The newer areas are affected if given a chance. So what we are saying in Europe and what we are saying in other places, something which is a very natural phenomenon, but to build up herd immunity there at this moment, it will defy any equation. It will rather follow the natural course of the viral infection as it covers more and more areas.
Understood. Third is that when we talk about live attenuated virus, which companies are working, live attenuated virus. So there is maybe a risk of live attenuated virus because this is a live virus. And we know that this virus is behaving in 6 different ways. One, it's a virus. So it is a self-limiting disease. Two, it is behaving like a bacteria because antibiotics are working. 3, it is working like HIV because it causes leukopenia and lymphopenia. And 4, it causes immunoinflammation because it is raising ESR, CRP, and ferritin. 5th, it is causing thrombosis because it is causing both rise in D-dimer along with rise in fibrinogen. And 6th, it is causing like cytokine storm, which is seen in other flu infections. So if a live attenuated virus is given, it may precipitate any of the complication. So do you think live attenuated viruses, which is being practiced, which one company is working on it, like along with Indian company, may not be a good idea?
Actually, if you really see the live attenuated viral vaccines, were all the time shown as a better bet because they caused a little shower of infection, which the killed vaccines couldn't produce, and they produced a good amount of antibody immune responses, I will say, which were long lasting. Some examples are measles, mumps, polio, all these, the smallpox, all these were live attenuated vaccines. Even for the JE, there is a live attenuated vaccine from China. So this is one of the very established standard method. When you use live attenuated strains, in these strains, you take care that they will not be able to revert. Like BCG is also a live attenuated bacterial vaccine. So a deletion mutant is created. In the same way here, some deletion mutants are created which cannot revert back. So this is the advantage of this. There is
And what
a
about
current
flu?
new live attenuated
What
vaccine.
about flu vaccine?
However, the flu vaccines, there are different models. One of the vaccines is a live attenuated vaccine.
Okay.
So here there is a danger that when this is in circulation, sometimes reassortants can be produced. Attenuated strain can combine with another circulating strain. Theoretically, it is happening also. In polio, it is happening. So there is a problem that a new uh, virus will emerge, which will be a reassortant virus. Sometimes it goes into natural death, sometimes it establishes itself. In AIDS, it has happened. In polio, it has happened. So there is a danger of a reassortant, recombined vaccines over there. There is another problem with in the COVID-19, as you have said, that it causes inflammation, it causes thrombosis, it causes Kawasaki-like of syndrome, it causes a huge amount of other perturbations. It is not a simple virus which causes infection and it goes a natural course of infection. It causes essentially huge inflammation of almost every organ. Every organ is affected because ACE2 in receptors are present on almost every organ. So here, one of the best strategies which are there that don't use virus at all, like messenger RNA vaccines are synthetic messenger RNA. Then they're not virus at all. And another major problem over here comes when you use a whole virus or an attenuated virus or a killed virus. You are using one of the major problem as is found in RSV vaccines and dengue vaccines. One of the major problem with this particular thing is also that it can produce antibodies which will be disease enhancing or immune responses which will attack the body and will be disease enhancing. So the attempt is that use as less a
Antigen as
part
possible.
of the virus which will only attach to the receptor but will not cause any other problem by fusing to membrane and causing all those perturbations. So messenger RNA vaccines go through those principles, that it will only prevent the binding of the virus to its receptor. It is such a small piece that it will not do any other thing. So they think through the messenger RNA vaccine, they will move. So there are 4 such attempts. One is by Moderna, which is now moving to phase 2, has moved to phase 2. Another one in India is Genova, but Pfizer is moving 4 messenger RNA vaccines with the BioNTech. And they have different fragments of the messenger RNA, and they feel that they will get one which will not have all those consequences, or 2 which will not have all those consequences, and will ultimately be a safe vaccine. It is not that these are being prepared today. They had already worked on these constructs before. They have done it for SARS-1, they have done it for MERS, and they have done it for respiratory syncytial viruses. So they're all RNA viruses and they have already experience with these.
So can I
So
use messenger RNA with a vector or can I use the messenger RNA with a conjugate to enhance its activity?
actually messenger RNA vaccines are being used with the 2 strategy. The one with Moderna is a LPN. This is a layer which is covering the messenger RNA. One with Genova is with a carrier known as lipid iron oxide and then adjuvant. One with the Pfizer is also with the uh, one with the Pfizer is also with another adjuvant. So this is what actually is being used. So in the messenger RNA, what they do that they get into the body and they start directing the body to produce that antigen. But if you put a carrier, they work better. So all of the messenger RNA vaccines have a carrier. Only there is a problem there. Till date, no messenger RNA vaccine is in the market. So this is one of the untold thing which we don't know. So they have worked very well in the creatures which have a tail, like rats, mice, and monkeys. When they come to human, they have not produced many a times desired response. But recently there was a discussion in the Pfizer, and the experience and the information which they have now gathered, they're pretty confident that they will get something which will give a good response in human. And it will not be only antibodies, it will be CD8 type of cytotoxic cells, which will also kill the infected viruses.
What about other platforms like VLP, adenovirus, rhesus monkey viruses, and rabies vaccine?
So here what is done, Dr. Agarwal, that none of the things which are being used in the COVID-19 vaccine is anything new, because they want a vaccine as quickly as possible. So they use a tried platform. So the VLP, the virus-like particle, is one of the platform where you can put analytes. It has got no virus. This is only the virus-like particle that it assembles on the SF9 cell lines. The surface of the virus assembles, so they put analytes. They clone it, and these the analytes are put on this platform. The another platform, which is what you are saying, that whether it was shrimp adeno, it is not shrimp adenovirus full. It is a platform, only the shell in which you put in this genetic material. The same way, whether it is adeno 26 of Johnson & Johnson, there also it is a shell and only the analyte is put over there. So these platforms are all known platforms. Already they have vaccines which are in the market with these platforms and they have experience with these platforms for safety and other things. They are only putting analyte. Most of the people are putting pre-fusion protein of the spike over there, not the fusion protein. Pre-fusion protein and fusion protein are of the spike are different. Pre-fusion protein has not actually attached to the membrane and others, so it has got a good conformation, and they think it will be produce nice quality antibodies, and it may not produce the adverse reaction which we fear. So most analytes are this pre-fusion spike protein. All the antigens at this given moment which are being used, 90% of them are spike proteins.
So yesterday, I think yesterday only I was reading about that all the companies in the US are thinking that to join together and let's use control as the common control. But their vaccines are different, and so will it be possible to have a common controls between various countries?
Actually, if you look at GSK and Pfizer are combining resources, some companies are combining resources, not for having a common control, because they control the placebos which are there. They normally inject them another vaccine. Like Johnson & Johnson is injecting their quadrivalent meningococcal vaccine in the placebo. You can't inject saline in the placebo, because you have to look at and compare the reaction with another one. The placebos should also benefit. So in the countries where they are doing, the meningitis is a major problem. So the placebos are getting benefit of a meningitis vaccine. But what's happening when two companies combine, they share some very intricate technologies. Sometimes they share an adjuvant, like GSK has one of the company's success is its ASO series of adjuvant. It is now ASO 4, ASO 5 generation is coming up. These adjuvants are very powerful, and adjuvant, the requirement of antigen is very small. So companies join together for their niche technologies, and if these technologies come together, the progress is faster. They also sometimes share the assays, share some very intricate methods which will make both the products, their own product and their partner's product, a success. That is how they combine, not to really have a common placebo, because it will depend the country in which they are doing the trial, that what vaccine the placebo will get. If
What do you
like
think that in this coronavirus vaccine, will it require a booster dose? Will it require to be repeated like a polio? Will it never come like a HIV because it has HIV-like features? Will it be lasting only for a year, or will it be requiring 2 or 3 doses in the same time?
actually,
How do we predict that? How do we predict that?
yeah, but so prediction is like this. Majority of respiratory viruses which we have seen, the immune response lasts maximum of 2 years. So you every 2 years you may have to take a vaccination and booster. So there people are thinking that COVID will also have the similar life cycle. One doesn't know. It is only 6 months, but the model is around the other respiratory viruses. At the moment, there are two injections. At the moment, there are only two injections which are being given, one in the beginning and another after 28 days. So at the moment, it is a 2 shot. Most of them are 2 shot. Few of them are 3 shots. But majority of them are 2 shots. However, the ideal vaccine will be that if you get an immune response after first shot, then you can use it in the epidemic situation. So that it also prevents epidemics. Like in the Rohingyas, the cholera bug vaccine, 1 shot was given and it prevented an outbreak. There is something very, very peculiar which is happening in this vaccine trials. Like normally they do 18 years to 60, 70 years, and then they do in children. Here, because of the immune responses are very different in their various age groups. The first age group which has received this in the phase 1 is 18 to 55. Now the second age group which is receiving it is 15 to 55, 56 to 70. The third age group which will receive will be 71 and above. It is thought that immune responses in all these age groups are different. And since this virus provokes different immune responses, to really look at SAEs and the responses, it will be good if we really do it in these 3 different adult age groups. For the children, they will do a bridging study later on. But at this given moment, this is the first time that I'm seeing that this kind of division into 3 different groups is happening as a phase 1. Phase 2, they will move as they get the experience. So 45 patients have been done in the phase 1. For most of the vaccines who are going to phase 2, 600 patients will be, volunteers will be done in the phase 2.
So I'm going now into a lateral
And another point I want to make, Dr. Agarwal, 3 doses are being used: 25 microgram, 100 microgram, and 250 microgram.
So I'm going to out-of-box discussion. That there was a time when I'm way back in 1975 to 1979, and we used to give the patient's own blood 2 cc of blood intramuscularly. So my one basic lateral thinking out of box question is, if this virus, which is intranasal, if the same virus is injected intravenously or subcutaneously, will the antibody response be different?
Actually, these are live virus. They cause, at one time, I will tell you, again, a small story, which is truth. This paper was published back to back in two issues of Lancet. We were working with hepatitis C. Hepatitis C, we knew, doesn't cause viremia. It is a gastrointestinal infection. It goes through portal vein to liver. It causes hepatitis, but no viremia happens. We were working on monkeys. This was my PhD student, and monkey was given bimodal infection. So he thought that we will never get a model here. So he didn't tell me. He drank the virus himself and sampled every 5 minutes his own blood sample and looked for virus. And lo and behold, we saw that there is a viremia there. A viremia, actual viremia is happening. Virus is in the blood. And when it was sent to Lancet, Lancet said that arrest the guides because this is totally inhuman and unethical. He hadn't told us. At that time, he told that since this is a self-resolving thing, I drank and I contributed to the science, and guides didn't know. So they published it back to back because this was a new information. So COVID also is causing a viremia. It will be very dangerous to inject this virus because it might cause a florid infection. At the moment, it is not actually.
Dr. Ganguli, I was saying it's the same patient. I'm talking about a patient who is COVID positive. And if I take his virus and inject his virus to him subcutaneously, will it improve his?
No, because this virus may cause a disseminated viral infection, because this virus actually goes everywhere to every organ.
And so if I kill this virus, like your killed virus, if I use your killed virus vaccine in the same patient of the same virus, like we say BCG immunization, like we say we are talking about BCG immunization. So similarly, in a patient who is suffering, if you give him the killed virus, will it respond?
No, BCG, firstly, BCG is not a killed bacteria. BCG is a live bacteria.
It's a live bacteria.
So if this particular virus has a problem. Its antigens we do not know. The kind of autoimmune inflammation which it is producing, the way it is moving the immune responses and the metabolomes to a totally different direction, that we do not know. When we inject even a killed virus straight away without even looking at the other things to create a safety data, it might cause a problem into a person. We do not know. It will not be allowed. At one time, if you remember, because I don't know whether you are younger to me or older to me. I think I am older to you. So I am around 79. So
I'm 61 only.
Okay. So when the first hepatitis B came up, then hepatitis B there was a theory that inject hepatitis B and exactly the same thing and create immunity. At that time, there was no vaccine available. So this is a thought which is not out of the outlandish thought. This kind of thinking has gone for a pretty longish time period. But as we know, for the COVID pathogenesis, this will be a dangerous step to do.
Okay, so I am going to ask the last question, then I'll hand it over to Dr. Ashokan, other people to ask questions. My last question is, I need to understand why this virus is behaving differently. Why it is behaving, it is causing leukopenia when we know viruses cause lymphocytosis. It is causing lymphopenia. Why this virus is causing immunoinflammation? If so, should we say all autoimmune disorders are a slow virus disease, which you used to think, there was a time we used to think that there is something like slow virus disease. So maybe that viruses do cause immunoinflammation, and all our immunological disorders are nothing but a slow virus disease. Why this virus is causing both rise in D-dimer and fibrinogen, and it is causing so much thrombogenesis. What is unique about this virus? Is it race dependent? Will the virus behave differently in various countries? Will the virus behave differently in different population? Is there any model which can tell us why viruses behave differently in various people? Same
Yeah,
virus.
yeah, very good question, Dr. Agarwal. This virus is not only causing the things which it does, like many way it is like HIV thing. What does HIV do the first? It actually destroys the immune system of the body. So very few people know the first thing it attacks is a gastrointestinal immune system, because we think that thymus is building it up and others. Essentially, in human, it is a gastrointestinal body, the pairs, patches, and other things which are actually building it our immune system. So that destroys it. Coronavirus also has a topping for the gastrointestinal tract, and so it tries to destroy the immune system. HIV also causes the destruction of the CD4 cells, and here also they are bringing it down, so you are seeing this particular phenomenon. It also affects the coagulation system. It causes thrombosis all around, and affects the coagulation system very badly. So you get fibrinogen, you get p-dimers, etc. So it has got multiple ways in which it attacks the body, because it has got a tremendous tropism. It is not the same as the SARS-1. This particular virus, the spike 1 and 2 is a trimer, 3 leaflets. What has happened? It has got a protease which actually removes a part of the membrane, and it latches not only to ACE2, it actually latches to the membrane. It almost fuses with the membrane. And then when it enters the membrane, it enters with actually a transmembrane part of that. And that causes tremendous there is now a lot of metabolome data which is available from one of the companies in the research triangle in the North Carolina in USA with the headquarters in Munich. This actually completely turns the body's metabolism against itself and immune system against itself. So it's a multi-dimensional thing, and that is why you are seeing, that is why the fibrinogen levels are happening, B-dimers are changing, the coagulation parameters are changing, the inflammasomes are burgeoning, and all the things which is in the heart. So many people are having heart arrest, are having arrhythmias, are having inflammation of vessels. The little children have inflammation of all the vessels and the heart. This is something very peculiar. We don't know all the answers at this
I'll ask
moment.
one thing, that ACE2 receptors, in quantitatively, do we have, all of us have the same amount of ACE2 receptors?
No,
Maybe the quantity
no,
of ACE2 receptors is
less.
different.
You have less, and I have more, and Dr. Ashokan has more. We fat people have more, and the lean people have less. So this is a known fact. And but ACE2 receptors are present in many places. They are in the blood vessels, they are in adipocyte, they are in the heart, they are in the lungs. So they are all over. And ACE2 receptor increases if you are obese, and if you have underlying condition like diabetes and other things, then the ACE2 receptor density increases. So it increases with underlying conditions. That's why people with underlying conditions are more susceptible.
If you have more ACE2, you are more likely to get thrombosis and inflammation, or no?
No, if you are more ACE2, like if the ACE2 are expressed in the endothelial cells of the blood vessels, then this virus will latch onto them, will create a huge endothelial perturbations. There will be that they will become very sticky. The macrophages will and other things will stick to that. Platelets will stick there. The the uh, the prostacyclin I, which is beneficial, will decrease, and thromboxane A, which causes platelet aggregation, will increase. The prostaglandin pathway will and leukotriene pathway will increase, and there will be thrombus and there will be vasculitis, huge vasculitis, which happens over here. So that is how it works. If it goes into the heart, and if you have an underlying condition, it will reach to myocarditis, heart failure, even the dilated cardiomyopathy, and it will cause a tremendous arrhythmia of the heart in the initial stages. But many people die of cardiac arrest. So this is how it works. So ACE2 receptor, if you have more, it will latch on to them and it will cause problems.
The last thing is that ACE2 receptors are more in the men than the women, and they are more in the as the aging advances. That may be the reason why children are more asymptomatic.
Yeah, with the aging, ACE2 receptor expression enhances.
And
However,
with male more than female.
However, male-female thing is much more hormonal. You know that there are few things which happens very less in females, like liver cancer is very rare in female. And there were German scientists who did it. It was related to estrogen and progesterone. In the same way, the liver cirrhosis is not very common in women. And in the same way, this particular infection world over is less in women. And it is thought that because of the estrogen, there is some kind of it is not because of the ACE2 receptor that much, it is because of the hormonal cycle which the women have. They are less vulnerable
That may
to
be the
this
reason. A
virus.
new study which has come is androgen deprivation therapy in prostate cancer. They have seen it helps. In those
Yep.
cases of prostate cancer who are on ADT, that is androgen deprivation therapy, there the chances of infection are less. So I have taken 40 minutes. Dr. Ashokan, I hand it over to you to have other question answers from you if you have any, because I need to close it by another 10 minutes. We discussed that we will be.
We have Dr. Sanchita here. She was there
last time. Sanchita,
session
you have
also.
any query?
Dr. Sanchita, do you have any questions?
You have been writing about it. You have any questions to clarify?
Dr. Jayakrishnan?
You are not Sanchita who writes for Hindustan Times.
No, that is
regarding
both of them are Sanchita Sharma, but she is doctor. She is a non-doctor.
So I have
JK has a question. Yes.
Yes.
regarding the antibodies produced as an immune response to the virus. How many types of antibodies are produced in this virus infection?
Actually, for any viral infection or anything, there are several antibodies which are produced because there are a lot of antigens in a virus. So here the antibodies may be produced to different OFR, the nucleocapsid antigens, envelope antigens, and other antigens. But the most important antibodies here is a neutralizing antibody, which is against the receptor binding domain of the virus. So this neutralizing antibody has a different kind of an assay. It is not like just ELISA thing or other things which you do. So it is done on a host cells. And so this neutralizing antibody is the most important antibody. Other antibodies may be used as surrogates. However, one of the dangerous antibodies, this virus, we do not know whether it produces or not. This antibody is the disease enhancing antibody. This is the dangerous antibody, which at the moment people are trying to find out that whether they can identify this antibody in the patients, so that when the vaccines are designed and other things are designed, they can look at this antibody. At this given moment, the assays are on the epithelial cells, in the tracheal cells and other cells, where they are looking at and seeing that whether any antibody epitope is binding and changing them. So there will be a huge number of antibodies to a viral infection. But for us, at this given moment, some are used for diagnostics, but the neutralizing antibodies will be for the vaccines.
When monoclonal antibodies are used, whether all these groups are simultaneously used or only one of them is used?
Actually, monoclonal antibodies at this given moment have been used before also, like in the rabies. If you are bitten in the upper part of the body, which children are bitten in the face, by the time you give the actual rabies vaccine, the persons have already got penetrated and they may so immediately you give monoclonal antibodies to reduce the thing. In many hepatitis, fulminant hepatitis and others, also hyperimmune immunoglobulin is given, which is not a monoclonal antibody, but there is an antibody therapy. The same way the plasmas also, plasma therapy works. Monoclonal antibodies are specific antibodies against various epitopes. So one of the first to make it was the Israelis. Israelis identified one and they were very satisfied that this actually prevents it. So there is a USO the company, Virgin. This company has produced a cocktail of 3 monoclonal antibodies. And they say that they bind to the 3 different epitopes and completely blocks the virus addition. However, monoclonal antibodies, you need a large amount of them to be given. If you know in the cancer therapy, all the monoclonal antibodies which are given at 50 milligram or more. So you need a very high expression systems in this. And you cannot, they get catabolized. The catabolism of the antibodies is 21 days. So they get catabolized. So this is very good for immediately saving a patient, a very critical patient who is going downhill. You can give it to them. The ones who made them, they said that this can be given every month or every 2 months, but it is impractical. At the moment, the monoclonal antibodies will have use and it will be frightfully expensive. Its use will be to save the critically ill patients who for whom the antivirals and others take time to act.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Dr. KK, can we close now? It has been a very nice experience for the past 2 episodes. It's a treasury of information, and I think we should go on the website so that more and more people benefit.
One, sir, a small general question.
Yes, sir.
Sir, you in your you mentioned in your speech that with the rise of temperature, the spread of virus is contained. Do you think that in India, now since the temperature is rising, will it affect the spread of the virus, COVID-19 virus in our country?
The simple answer is nobody knows, and I also don't know. However, respiratory viral infections, with the history of whatever respiratory viral infection you take up, they normally wane during the heat and summer months. But in USA, it is not happening in Florida or Miami and other
So that's what my apprehensions are. You know,
where the temperature is high. But now some of the major workers in the United States and Europe and other places have come up with a theory. There's a modeling theory, and Chris Murray, who is the best modeler, also has revised his thing by saying that higher temperatures will have an effect, because now people are seeing that how the virus survives in the various surfaces and various temperatures. So the theory is that it might have an effect. So let us see. This virus is only few months old. We do not know, but this may wane during summer, but when it comes back again, you will have a very large peak because it will come with the seasonal influenza. Seasonal influenza also comes during the winter. So you will have seasonal influenza and you will have this. $1 million question is this, that can a person suffer from COVID-19 as seasonal influenza at one time? I don't think it could happen because one of the what happens with the viral infection,
Is a
that cell starts producing interferon. So this interferon will prevent another viral infection in the same person. So probably it might not happen, but the both infection will coexist in the community and raise the respiratory infection rate. In the initial stages, it is very difficult to differentiate between two.
Thank you. Thank
But
you.
I don't know answer
Ashokan
to your
do
question.
vote of thanks. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Vote of
you.
thanks normally belongs to Dr. Ramesh Dutta, but anyway.
No,
I'm
sir.
so grateful,
It is the
Professor.
privilege of HSTs now.
I am so thankful to Professor N.K. Ganguly, such a treasury of information. And I think IMA could be benefited in future also in discussions with him. I only wish that we are able to put it on, give it back to him, get it edited and put it in the website for everybody's use.
So
Thank you so much for
Ashokan,
participating.
Dr. Ashokan, I'm going to end with only one request. I propose that in your annual awards, a lifetime achievement award may be considered for Dr. Ganguly. When you
Certainly,
give
sir.
your
Certainly,
Certainly, sir. Certainly.
He is one person at that age. He's so active at that
Yes.
age. He deserves a IMA Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Thank you,
sir.
Dr.
Thank you, sir.
Agarwal.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you so much.
Ashokan and
Thank you,
Dr.
sir.
Datta
Thank you,
and
sir.
everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye.